am so happy to welcome you all back to season 4. Believe it or not, season 4 of Mental Health and the Sacred Sanctuary. We are back at it again. And tonight we have an amazing episode that will have a conversation around racial stress, healing racial stress, and particularly looking at how that healing happens for Black teens. We have a host, an amazing panel, and a host of authors that will be leading this discussion on tonight. So get your pens ready, get engaged. I want you to put your comments and questions in the chat, and we look forward to having a very fruitful conversation. Mental Health in the Sacred Sanctuary is a monthly webisode offered by Alfred Street Baptist Church and the Office of Christian Care and Counseling. I happen to be the very happy and elated Director of Counseling here, or AP of Counseling here at Alfred Street, and I'm very glad to bring this episode to you. On tonight, and I'm going to let the authors introduce themselves in just one moment, but I want to remind you that Mental Health in the Sacred Sanctuary is a sacred space of healing where wellness and where God is centered. We selected that theme because we need you to understand that your mental health is just as important as your faith. You can have Jesus and a therapist. You can have a couch and Christ. Listen, and you can have Calvary and the cross and a prescription, whatever you need, all wrapped up together to make sure that your mental health and wellness is on 100%. So with that, let's get started on tonight. I am going to allow our amazing guests to begin, starting here. Will you please tell us your name? And so this top panel level are our actual authors. We have all of them in the building. And so I'm going to ask her to begin with your introduction, and we'll go all the way around, and then we'll be ready to get started.
Hi, I am Dr. Nicole Cammack, and I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm located in the DC area.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Danielle Busby, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, but I'm in the states of Texas and Michigan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Farzana Saleem. I'm trained as a clinical community psychologist, currently not practicing, but I'm a professor at Stanford University in the Graduate School of Education.
Hi, I am Dr. Jessica Henry. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm based out of the DC, Maryland, Virginia area.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Dana Cunningham, also a licensed clinical psychologist and based here in Maryland.
In addition to our authors on this evening, we also have an amazing local school counselor that will be adding to our conversation. So I'll have her introduce herself at this time.
Hi, I'm Tracy Jackson. I've been in education 26 years. I am a school counselor and also an adjunct professor at the community college.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have 2 amazing teams from our Higher Ground and Crossover Youth Ministries here at Alfred Street. Please introduce yourselves.
My name is Shania Williams.
And I'm Tyler Turner.
All right, that's Miss Shania Williams and Mr. Tyler Turner. Thank you all, everyone. Thank you all for being here on tonight. Our moderator from the Office of Christian Care and Counseling is serving, so I'll have her introduce herself as well.
I'm Michelle Johnson, and I'm the parent coach for the Office of Christian Care and Counseling.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so we're going to get started. We'll have Ms. Tiffany Majette come now, and she's going to get us started with our first round of questions. So, Tiff, come on.
Can you all hear me? Great. Good evening, everyone. First, thank you guys for writing this book. It is amazing. It is definitely something that brings awareness and allows you to think, and I love to think, so that's great. Starting off, I just have a question for the authors. In this first section of the workbook, adolescents are given definitions and taught that there are different forms of discrimination. Why is it important for them to know the different types of discrimination? Anyone can start.
Well,
I really think that it's important for youth to know, because I think so many times we think about it like a broad concept, right? Like, oh, it's just one experience, but there's truly a range of experiences. And so sometimes it can be hidden, it can be obvious, and so sometimes it can be confusing. So it's really important that they are aware and know what they're getting, what they're, coming in contact with. And before they can develop strategies for it and understand its impact, they have to be able to label it and name it. So it's really important that they understand. So if you think about, a lot of people may say, oh, I may have experienced it or I may not have. I think in the world we live in today, a lot of people have experienced discrimination. When you think about that, we've all had witnessed or learned about the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd right during COVID. That's called vicarious exposure to discrimination. We've all witnessed that and experienced that. So that's just a way of defining it. So just giving them the terms so that they know what the experience was before they can then begin to unpack it. So it's really important to just begin to first be able to label it and name it.
Yes, absolutely. Identity is key. Would anyone else like to answer?
I was just going to add, sometimes when you're able to name it in that way, it sort of puts words to your experience that you may be searching. Like, I know something didn't feel right. I know that made me uncomfortable. But being able to define it at least gives you a space of like, okay, I'm seen. It validates your experience. And then it gives you a space to start in terms of, now what do I do next?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. For our youth, I have a scenario, then a question, okay? In the workbook, the authors mentioned that discrimination can sometimes be less obvious, as they said here, and you can at times second guess your experience and be unsure that you experience racism. One example in the book is a teacher complimenting Black students on their use of good English or stating you are so articulate. How would you feel if you heard a teacher make those compliments to Black students but not white students?
So I've kind of been through the same experience, because like my friends usually ask me, why do you speak so proper? And I always thought it's a weird question because that's just how I speak. But I would honestly feel like, why don't you automatically expect me to be articulate with my words? Like, I'm already set up to be looked at as I'm not as educated, or I can't really speak my mind as other students.
Adding on to what she said, I would feel left out. I would feel different. I would feel like an outcast. I wouldn't feel like I'm like the other kids. So it would just make me feel different, or a different person.
Thank you. Those feelings are important. To our parent, teacher, counselors, in the example given, would you feel comfortable helping an adolescent navigate this situation? And what do you think you would need support with?
Yeah, I absolutely feel comfortable doing that. That's something that unfortunately, happens often. Kids will come, and if it's not something like that, it's the flip. It's the other kind of microaggressions, like maybe teachers saying, hey, do you really think you should be in this honors class? Or maybe you shouldn't be in the dual enrollment or AP. Maybe you should go down. Or kids going into the class and feeling like, I don't feel welcome. I don't see other people that look like me. And so then it's incumbent upon me to, try to break that mindset of, I know it's tough, and I will be honest with kids. I'm not going to tell them that every teacher in the building has great expectations for you, but I do, right? And there's other people who do as well. So how do we overcome that? And I've gone to classrooms, and, my job as a school counselor is to advocate for the students. So, and trying to get them not to drop those classes that I know they need to be in and can stay. So that's an ongoing fight.
Yes, thank you. Yes, honesty and transparency are both important. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We'll next go to Ms. Michelle Johnson, our parent coach, Section 2.
So awareness is really key, right? Knowing the definitions. The scenario was really good, especially recently there was the viral email or video of the teacher who banned certain words in her classroom. Right? You are no longer able to say, and they were colloquialisms that are normal for our culture, right? Things like, what's the word the kids call everybody now? Bruh. You can't say bruh. You can't say for the culture. You can't. And she had a whole list of words, and this video was viral. So the awareness of what this looks like for kids, whether it's a microaggression or whether it's an obvious thing, is important. But awareness needs agency, right? It needs, well, when this happens, what do I do? So when you think about part 2 of your book, and you think about this section and kids exploring and understanding the impact of racial stress and trauma and thinking about their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions and behaviors and being able to identify the relationships, what are some of the activities that you created for them to explore in section 2 that are vital for kids to understand about discrimination?
Well, it's important to recognize that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all related. And so we want to make sure that youth understand how their thoughts may impact how they're feeling about a certain situation and then the actions that they take in regards to how they're feeling. And so we have a lot of different exercises. Some are scenarios where we present different experiences that a student may have, particularly a racially stressful experience, and have them process and identify what thoughts they may have about that particular experience. And then also identifying what thoughts or what feelings they have about those experiences. And we actually even have an emotions chart to provide different words for youth to use and identify. So oftentimes, youth as well as adults, when we think about emotions, it's happy, sad, and mad, right? And there are a broad variety of feelings and emotions we can have about different situations. So we want to, again, give them the language to express how they're feeling, how these different incidents are impacting them. And we don't just focus on racially stressful situations in the workbook. We also focus on helping youth identify what are empowering thoughts, what are empowering statements I can make to myself if I do encounter a racially stressful situation. So if I have a teacher who is saying something to me like, you talk so proper for a black, or I'm surprised, about how you speak. You can recognize that, but then also say, and I also come from a long lineage of kings and queens, and, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, right? Talk about how you can empower yourself, because that's part of the work as well. So we have lots of activities in there for you to really explore their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around a variety of different incidents.
I was going to also add that it's another activity where we have the human body, and you're able to really identify where in your body some of these things come up, because things happen physically to us and we don't always connect them to our emotions, right? So we want kids to get better at being able to name, all right, I feel tension in my chest, or, I realize I start to get, a really bad headache. What is it that's happening in your body when you're starting to experience these things? Additionally, I think we give a lot of good scenarios, so similar to the example we gave there, because we want kids to relate to the experience. Many of the examples we gave came from our own personal experiences, the youth in our lives and our families, and the students that we work with. And so it was important for it to feel relatable and something that they could really understand.
That's so awesome. So a couple things you said that I want to say before I ask the students about one of the scenarios that you gave is, first of all, thank you for the emotion wheel. That is vital. And thank you for finding the good part, right? The empowering statements. A lot of times when we talk about this, we focus on the negative. And for our kids to have agency for figuring out how to get through it, they need to know the flip side. So stories help us do that. Stories help us do that because if you hear a story and how someone was able to get through, your brain then says, hey, that's a process I can use. And if they did it, so can I. So to my young students, I have a scenario for you. Dante is a young man. He's 15 years old. He lives in a predominantly black neighborhood. He and his brother like some of the typical things you might find in the culture, hip hop, but they also play chess, right? And so he is also a student, though, in a predominantly white school. And so he's been faced with some things at school that have been pretty disturbing for him. When he went to this charter school, he entered into the chess club and wanted to join the first day. And as soon as he walked in, somebody said, hey, the basketball team is meeting down the hall, right? Assuming he walked into the wrong room. He felt bad about that, but he made the chess team. And one of his teachers, when he told him, said, really? I didn't expect someone like you to enjoy playing chess. So hearing these biased comments like that made Dante think a lot more about his race and how white students and teachers thought about him. As a result of his experience, Dante also wanted to learn more about black history and accomplishments of his ancestors. So he started reading more and talking to his parents about black history. Dante realized that the more he talked, the prouder he became of his race. He also found out that there were other black chess players, and he was excited to be standing on the shoulder of those giants who shared his heritage. So when you think about some of what I just said, right, there's the negative and all the stereotypes. But in this scenario, you also heard where Dante was able to establish, identify people who were like him in his history, and it made him feel a certain way. Well, let me ask you this. What do you think Dante was feeling in either side of the story, and his thoughts, his feelings, and what do you think about the actions that Dante took?
I think that he took the right actions, because he could have got mad. He could have said like bad words. I'm not gonna say them, but he could have said bad words. He could have like left the school, but he took the right action because he read about his history. He read about how people are like him. So I think it interested him to learn more about chess and learn more about people, the color of his skin, and playing chess. So
I think that Dante did take the right path because, like he said, he could have easily got mad, but I feel like he stood in his own identity and kind of, went with what he had going on. And I would honestly kind of feel like left out, but I would feel like I made the right decision, and that I'm kind of breaking down those stereotypes and just, being myself.
And when you think about what you heard about how it felt in his body, like Tyler, you talked about anger, right? So in his body, what do you think he felt when he was in the room that day when those statements were actually being made? Because you brought up anger. How does anger feel in your body?
I think he would feel like wrath in his body. He would feel like anger. He just wants to punch him in his face. But that's not the right approach, because they have more against you. They'll like say, oh, that's why we don't like people like him there. So you're just giving them a reason for you to not be there. So I think you shouldn't give them a reason for you not to be there.
Do you know what it feels like in your body when you're angry? Like, where do you feel anger?
Like in my face.
In your face? What does your face do? What will in your fist?
Like, it'll ball up, but I don't do that often.
Right. But can you imagine Dante balling up his fist when he heard those statements?
Not really, because it's like impolite.
You think he held it inside instead?
Yeah, I think he held it inside.
How about you? Do you know what it feels like? Like you keep saying, I've heard you say this a couple of times, like feeling left out. Do you know what that feels like in your body when you feel left out?
It really just feels like you don't belong. So you're trying to really figure out where you can belong, but it's kind of hard because, maybe you feel like you really belonged in that one group. So with the whole anger thing, for me, anger usually feels like I feel something like just a chill kind of coming up. And I know I have to kind of just calm down. That's why usually when something happens, I take a second to calm down before I give a response. So I think Dante, he might have just had to take a breath before he said something, because I know I'll be mad, so.
And so I love that you guys have incorporated the how it feels in your body, because as you see, even our teens are struggling a little bit with how to describe those feelings in their body. So the workbook, when parents and counselors are working with students, is an excellent way for them to begin to understand what that feels like not just the emotion of the words, but knowing what it feels like so they can do what you heard her say. I feel this coming up. I need to take a breath. Or I know I shouldn't say those words because it's just going to build up more of that stereotype. So thank you. Ms. Jackson, anything to add?
No, I just think that's I love that you guys said that you both pause, because that's important. And emotions are real. And a lot of times, working with kids, they may get triggered by something that a staff member or a teacher did, and it may be righteous indignation, but they don't pause. And so it's critical that they learn how to do that. Because I've said to kids, I don't know, right or wrong, I've said, hey, don't be a walking stereotype, okay? Because the expectation is that you're going to, pop off because you got to the door. As soon as the bell rang and they closed the door. I mean, come on. Some things that adults do in the building are setting children off or setting teens off, and they don't always know how to react. I don't always know how to react, right? But I'm an adult, and how emotions feel sometimes for me is like smoke literally coming out of my ears.
Yeah, and so let's talk about why they don't know how to react all the time, right? So our kids have kid brains. And so the ability to take a pause, they're at the age where their brain is starting to be able to understand that. But the ability to regulate yourself in a situation like that where you can still stay engaged and keep your control. You know, mamas and daddies used to say, stay calm, but y'all don't know how to do that yet, for real. And like Ms. Jackson said, she don't sometimes either as an adult. But she has an adult brain and they don't, right? So this workbook is a great way for you to begin to teach them, as I said, the agency, the how. Like, it's easy to tell a child to do that, but with a child without an adult brain, your workbook provides so many strategies and tools that a parent or an adult or a school can work through with them to teach them to become aware, and then again, like I said, to have the agency of the how to handle the situation. So ladies, thank you so much. Yes.
Can I add something to that? Because we also want to normalize, that's a situation where you're going to feel angry. Anger may be an emotion and it's like totally normal. Like if someone is isolating you or trying to limit you based on what they perceive on your outside, that's frustrating. And you're going to have some emotions about that. And we have to just normalize, like, yep, you're going to be angry sometimes. It doesn't mean you have to react in an aggressive way. And that's where the book comes in terms of, now, what are some strategies? It also doesn't mean you just have to take it either. There may be strategies where you get a teacher involved or a counselor, or you talk to your parents or whatever. But I do just want to normalize that these emotions are normal. And so part of knowing how it shows up in your body is so that you recognize when the anger is coming. So when the smoke is coming out of the ears, the fists are balling up, you're feeling hot all over, it's like, okay, I'm a little angry. I know when I feel like that these are the options that I have in this moment. And sometimes it may be doing that in the immediate and then also adding these additional strategies afterwards.
That is so valuable. And I'm going to move on to section 3 in a second. But let's go a current event real quick. Have you guys watched the news about the young man with his hair issue? Yeah, okay. We're gonna bring that question back. But I wanted to, because you said normalize feelings. Like, he cried yesterday. He literally cried. You could see his emotion. So just of a little context, it's the young man in Texas who's been literally suspended since August because of the quote-unquote length of his locks.
Had to go to an alternative school, too?
He had to go to an alternative school, and like Texas does have the Crown Act, but they use the length of his locks as the excuse. But I love that you said normalize his feelings. Like, this has been a lot for this young man, and he literally cried yesterday. And I'm glad that we are showing and teaching our young people that it's normal to have these emotions like anger and disappointment. We're going to come back because I saw your emotion on that.
But I do want to just say that the book is great because it's not going to solve the problems immediately, right? We want you to put it into action, to practice it, so that, you're not going to be able to get frustrated in a moment and be like, I just experienced racial stress, so I'm going to put these skills into action right then and there. You have to practice it over and over again, and that's why we really encourage a supportive parent, a caregiver, a teacher, educator to work alongside them to begin to put those skills. So it's all about practice and experiences with the book, too.
Awesome. Mr. Wallace?
Thank you. Hello, ladies and sir. I'm used to it, okay, so I feel your pain. My first two questions are for the authors. What does it mean to build resistance and resilience?
So a part of what we were talking about earlier of connecting thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, a part of being able to name, as we were saying, is being able to recognize, hey, this was racism, or this seems like racism right now, right? But be able to also name the feeling. But a part of the resistance and the connection between the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors is also to recognize that when you have an encounter happen with you, that you don't internalize that encounter to think that there's something wrong with you. Right? We want them to be able to recognize we want them to be able to externalize and say, okay, when I'm experiencing racism, other systems of oppression, there's actually something wrong with this system that's here, that's at play. Or there's something wrong with the thoughts, these erroneous thoughts that someone else is having, perhaps about stereotypes, about me not being able to play chess, about stereotypes about me not being able to speak correctly, right? So a part of the resistance definitely begins with the resistance of internalizing the racism itself, because we do not want youth to think there is something wrong with them. I think the other part of resistance, too, is figuring out what it means to act, right? So when we think about how do you respond in that situation, I think, again, a challenging piece is for all of us, even adults, you might be caught off guard, especially whether it's blatant racism or whether it's a microaggression that's more subtle, and you're left wondering and kind of perseverating on like, wait, was that what I think it was? So a part of the resistance, too, is figuring out the best way once you get a chance to identify and kind of regulate what is it that I need to do in this moment to resist racism in my actions as well as my thoughts.
Very good. In section 3, what are some of the skills that are given to Black youth to navigate racism?
Well, one of the big things is really about how do you create a game plan around what to do, right? So we can acknowledge what's happening, we can name it, right? Then we can think about what are going to be my own internal strategies for managing these tough feelings, but what game plan am I going to put into action? So how am I going to advocate for myself in this situation? How am I going to get additional support around what may be going on? So maybe like that is going to a school counselor that you trust. Maybe that's telling your parents about what happened and thinking about how can we, formally respond to this teacher, for example. Or how can I empower my peers, right? So what can we do as a collective to stand for something different, or to say we would like to stand for something different in this school or in this community, et cetera. So I think it's about creating that game plan. After you create it, implementing it, going about what is my first step, what is my second step, and then after evaluating it, right? Was I happy with what this plan gave me? What was the outcome, right? And so if it worked, you want to do that again. And we don't want to keep experiencing these things, but if you have that experience again, and if it didn't, you want to revise it so that you feel that it was a better outcome.
And that game plan piece is so critical, because when we think about having a game plan, right, you kind of take that coaching mindset. We need to practice certain things in order to become better at them, right? We don't want our young people's first experience with racism or microaggression and them not knowing what to do or not knowing who to go to and kind of questioning themselves. But the more they practice, like, okay, if somebody says this to me, this is what I'm going to say, or this is who I'm going to talk to. Or if it's a teacher that says it, this is what I'm going to do. But if it's another peer that says something, making sure they sort of practice, go through step by step, looking in the mirror sometimes and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to say, right, if this happens, because the more they practice it, the more natural it will become for them when they do encounter those situations. And so that's just such a critical component to practice.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One other thing, too, I just want to name that we're talking about advocacy for our young people and speaking up, but we also know that Black teens are more likely to experience disproportionality when it comes to suspension and discipline. And so I just think it's really important that, our young people have to make tough decisions about what to do in the moment, because speaking up and calling out a teacher, that might actually be the right thing that you want to do in that moment. But I think assessing safety and assessing what's going to be the safest for me and most empowering for me, and perhaps maybe you're even thinking about that for your peers, is really important. So that's just something else to recognize, too, that every situation might have a different response, and we want to think about what is safe for our young people. And so the book also lays out different options for how do you kind of think through that. And again, remembering and recognizing these are like really quick moments. And so it's okay to feel like, I wish I would have done that differently. We want to also normalize that for young people. Sometimes we don't have the perfect response the first time, but that's okay. There are still things we can do, right? We can talk to a safe adult after. We can find ways to come together with our young, our peers, and maybe we go to the principal and we propose something, right, based on what's happening in our school. So just recognizing, too, that piece about safety and disproportionality for our young people in terms of discipline in the school context.
Thank you. My next question is for our youth, and you two have been amazing. Okay. During some of the events that occurred during the COVID pandemic, the killing of George Floyd, some youth attended nonviolent protests or joined clubs focused on race, inequality, and injustice. What activities, clubs, or groups did you think are available for youth to build resilience and resistance?
Maybe like, getting together with your friends or going to a protest where maybe, a lot of teens are getting together. Or maybe if you go to like a predominantly white school, you could start a Black student association. I heard that many people do that. So maybe it doesn't have to be necessarily a club, but you can always get together with your friends and kind of get together to advocate for things, or go to higher people, and kind of advocate if something went wrong.
Thank you.
I think you can join the group that is best for you. Like, some groups aren't just for you. Like, in school, they have these Black groups for your Black friends and stuff. But sometimes it's not for you. Sometimes you need to go outside of school and find some friends.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. My last question is for our counselor here. Do you feel comfortable promoting resistance activism and community engagement as a skill to help youth navigate racism?
Yes, absolutely, I do. And so sometimes I find myself getting hyped up at school, and then I'm like in a meeting, and I'm like, okay, calm down. Pull it together, But yeah, because I'm passionate about, what I feel about what's right and what's wrong in the world and what happens with kids. And sometimes I'll see situations happening maybe with students where a parent isn't there, and, maybe something's going awry. So I'll use my voice, but parents really need to be there. A lot of times there are parents who are not there, and I've seen situations go down in meetings that maybe wouldn't have happened if there was a parent speaking up, or maybe a parent is there, and I'm like jumping at the bits, like, don't let this go down like this. So a lot of parent, like that's where you would come in, I guess, right? A lot of parent coaching about what's right and what's wrong and what your rights are in the school, I think is really important. But yes, do I feel like I have a voice? I feel like my voice is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, I shouldn't be there.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you all.
Great. So I love, Dr. Saleem, that you mentioned that they have to be careful because we are disproportionately punished for speaking out. And so teaching the workbook, teaching them to go when to advocate. I had one who was taught to advocate at a young age, and I had to teach her when it was appropriate for her to do it and when she needed an adult to do it, because she did receive some consequences, right? And so it's real important that the workbook shows, I'm glad you have those examples for them to work through to be advocates. To what you said, Ms. Jackson, about parents who are not able to advocate for their children, I think it goes back to something I realized when I was in school administration, that some parents have negative experiences with school. And because of their own negative experiences with school, it is traumatic to come into schools and to even understand what to advocate for and how to advocate for it. So I'm hoping that your workbook, as we get it in the hands of parents and as we get it in the hands of schools and teachers and counselors, that it will begin to give them, not just the students, the skills, but it will also arm the parents with some skill sets that will make them more comfortable to advocate for their child or to help their child learn when and when not to advocate. And to the young people, great response on how you choose where you want to feel comfortable with your own advocacy. That is so important that you mention whether you do it individually based on your own experience, your own needs, and then finding your own group of people. So section 4.
Well, I had a bonus question.
You have another question?
I'm trying to get in trouble, y'all. Okay, so we got an email in the office this week. I won't bother you with the whole email. But this person was concerned. They wanted to forward an opportunity to participate in our taping today to a young man, but felt that he would benefit from hearing 6 women discussing stress for teenagers to the exclusion of what Black boys go through in America. I just wanted to hear your thoughts about, I don't know, maybe some of the gender norms or culture conditioning that we experience when it comes to, emails as such. Anybody?
So should we have had men on this panel because some of the young men don't feel that way? That's just the question.
Can you repeat? I want to make sure I heard what you said
Okay.
correctly.
All right. I'll try it again. Okay, so the email we received, essentially, someone wanted to forward an invite to attend our taping tonight, but was concerned that the young man wouldn't benefit from hearing about how to deal with stress from women, is essentially what she said.
I got it.
So I was just curious about any thoughts you may have had.
I can jump in to start. So at first I was thinking, there are unique experiences that boys and girls have, right? And if we're just talking about race, right? So black boys and black girls. At first I thought I heard you say that a white boy. Okay,
Sorry,
great.
that's just my southern drawl.
I wanted to make sure I heard that specifically. So so we recognize that there are unique experiences that black boys have. I think that we know as they get older, in general, they're more likely to be perceived as more dangerous, older than they are, higher expectations, right? And so I think there's also higher risk that sometimes parents feel when preparing young black boys for racism and discrimination, that because they can be seen as more threatening, they're more likely to be in more high-risk situations around just the safety of their life. And so I do think that there are unique experiences that black boys have compared to girls, but I also, we have, my panelists can share too, and in the therapy space, work with boys, young folks identify as boys and girls. And so I think that is something, there are experiences that no matter what, like we can understand what racism is, but we also recognize that there are unique experiences and unique risks that parents are considering when they're socializing youth for racism. And so I do think that the parent, I would like to hear more about what their concerns are, if it's about being nervous about preparing young boys because of the high-risk situation that they're concerned about.
Okay. Anyone else?
It sounds like it wasn't just about the high risk of boys, but about women speaking to those experiences of boys, which is why I had to take a pause because I had some reactions to that, and I'm still pausing over here. But that's what it sounds like the concerns were. And we're not just women, we're licensed clinical psychologists. So I just want to point that out because part of our training is understanding all humans. And we've taken, each of us in our own rights have dedicated our career to Black people. And so when you think about our book, we're not limiting it to, what is an experience of a girl, or what is, and only speaking to girls. We use examples of girls and boys because the truth of the matter is there are unique experiences for all Black people. I work with veterans, so when I talk to older veterans who served in Vietnam, they have specific experiences. When I look at my daughter, and there's research that shows how Black girls are parentified or looked at as older starting at 5. My daughter is 11 and she's tall, so I look at how people perceive something that she does versus another kid, what might be perceived as, this is just a little kid, you're too old for that. And then we look at Black boys and think about how they may be perceived as threatening. So the book doesn't limit by gender, and I just want us, this isn't a time to be divisive among us. We're all dealing with it. We're all having our own personal experiences. We've had things that shaped how we feel. And this is a time to sort of bring it together. So our book doesn't limit. And the other thing our book does is we use real life experiences, and we also use names that we can relate to. So our hope is that when youth read this book, they see themselves despite, gender. And I think for parents, it's a great tool because this now becomes a conversation starter. Because the truth is, youth are probably dealing with things that sometimes parents don't even know. And so the book creates a space of having that conversation and of being able to bring it together I remember what that was like, or I've had this challenge, and let's figure out together how to deal with it. So I hope the person gets the book, learns some things, and reach out to us after this.
And we all have a lot of...
I hope she watches this.
I do too.
We all have a lot of specialties. I worked in a male prison for 4 years. So, that was a great experience in and of itself. So I think we've all had our experience working with young Black boys to older Black men. So I think we have a wealth of knowledge to bring to the table.
Can I say something too? Let me just respond. Well, I can appreciate where the writer may have been coming from, wanting to see some male figures. I want them also to realize that, especially where you're sending your kids to school every day, there's not necessarily a lot of Black males in schools teaching your children, counseling your kids, etc. But it does not mean that we are not fully aware, as the lady said, and understand the needs and the specific needs for Black boys, right? So we know there's studies that show that once our cute little Black boys, once they get to third grade, they're not looked at as cute anymore, right? So from my perspective, when I'm working with students, I keep it very real with them. I talk to young men and I'm like, I am a mother of 2 Black boys, 2 Black young men now, right? And so I just tell them, I'm not gonna tell you anything different than what I've told them. So I can appreciate what he's saying, but I don't want him or her to discount what any Black woman up here is able to do for their Black sons. And if you are concerned, definitely reach out to your schools and find a Black staff member in the school that you can build a relationship with, so you have someone within the schoolhouse who can advocate for your child as well.
Thank you. I ain't got no more questions now. I'm done.
So as we transition to section 4, thank you for speaking to the unwritten part of that with the discrimination and the experiences that our boys experience that are different and that we all experience that may be different, and speaking to your expertise. Section 4?
Listen, when I got the email, now I can stand in this space and say, writer, thank you for sending it.
Yes, thank you.
But on site, I was feeling some kind of way, and I had to delete my initial response because I went to advocating because not only are you all, and so I did include in my response that the doctors will be in the house. PhD doctors who have expertise, experience, research, and resources, and their own ability and experience with working with all kinds of people. And so, listen, the flyer is only but so big. We couldn't get 9 folk on the flyer, plus the staff, all right? So I appreciate in this moment the question, and I'm glad that it was posed so that we could address it. Because what we don't want to do is be divisive. We're all in this work together. That's why this book aligns with students, teens, and parents. One clear thing that I heard as you all were sharing is that practice makes better, not perfect. You have to practice the tools and techniques and skills that are offered in this workbook. You will not be able to effectively practice alone, especially leaving a child to their own to practice. So you have to get the book. So here's my shameless plug. Get the book, healingracialstress.com. And those that are present tonight, you can get it tonight. Because not only do you want to encourage your teen to practice, listen, I needed some practice. I had to stop, pause, and pray. You hear me? I had to stop, pause, pray, and decide if I was ready to re-engage. I had to use my tools in that moment. And that's something I have to practice very often because, like my brother here, I like to ball up my fist. Now, I'm not going to fight. I'm not getting out in the street fighting, but I will ball up my fist, and I might have to covet my words. And so I got to pray real hard because it's hard out here. It's hard out here, right? So I need all that Jesus has for me and all the tools that I can get so that I can stay alive out here in this world. Amen? All right. Breathe in. So you can probably tell at this point that this workbook we have found very vital. There are 4 significant sections in this book. And so we've kind of touched on, to the best of our ability, each section. So I am going to bring up the rear with the 4th section. And so to our amazing authors, in section 4 of this workbook, it talks about helping Black youth develop a game plan. Somebody say game plan.
Game plan.
Yeah, there's a reverend in front of this name. So we need a game plan. So the book helps us understand how to develop a game plan for dealing with racism in the world. Why is it important to prepare Black youth for these encounters and how to respond to them? Why is this something that we really need to hone in on to help Black youth? Why do we need this game plan?
Well, one of the reasons we really wanted to emphasize the game plan is because we know when you can be prepared, when you can have been thoughtful about what your steps are going to be or how you're going to go about solving something, you're going to have a better outcome. You're going to have more preparation and being able to not feel as caught off guard when these situations occur. I know sometimes with some of the youth I work with, we even come up with what's going to be like your comeback line or what's going to be your interrupter to the experience that's happening. And those are just one quick sentence. It can be as simple as, wow, that really offended me, or wow, that surprises me that you think that way, right? So I think it's really important to come up with that game plan so that in that moment when those emotions are bubbling, you kind of have some pre-decided steps for how you're going to move through.
And I think I'm sorry. So I think it's so many times when we think about our Black kids, right, we always think about how we socialize them a lot different from white children, right? When you get pulled over, how do you hold the steering wheel, right? How do you respond, yes, sir, no, sir, right? We think about those types of communication ways for planning them. But how do we take it a step forward, right? How do we not just prepare them to how to react when they're in the moment, but how do we teach them how to heal and thrive and to move beyond? So really teaching them, like, there's more that you can do, right? There's more people who support you, and who do you go to when you need to communicate and how to work through those challenges. So again, we're always trying to push it a little bit further. You don't just have to accept and take it. Now what do you have to do to now continue to thrive and cope and heal?
May I add one other piece of that too? Because when we talk about, I think the thriving piece is just so important because one big part of, I think in section 3 and a bit of section 4, we talk about building cultural strengths and assets. And so building those cultural strengths means I'm learning about my history. I'm building pride in my history. I'm building a healthier sense of ethnic racial identity, which we know is a protective factor in the midst of racial stress and trauma. So when those things happen, it buffers the effects or can lessen the effects when I have a stronger sense of my identity in being Black, right? And knowing about my culture, knowing about my history. And so I think a part of that too, again, as we think about a game plan, it's building that strength and resistance, building that strong sense of self-concept and part of being proud to be Black, right? And so when you're experiencing these stressors that are uncontrollable, right, and that unfortunately will come for the rest of our lives. I think that's the other reality. How do we equip them for something that's uncontrollable and that will likely continue to happen the rest of our lives, whether it's directly or vicariously or systemically, right? I think that having them recognize it, feel prepared, but also have still that stable sense of self and feel good about who they are and their identity and their culture and their history is a really important piece of that too. Yeah.
I love that. A large piece of that is being able to help not only ourselves, but our children understand that empowerment is their portion. They deserve to feel and know with pride, like I am proud of who I am, where I come from, and now on top of that, I can add these amazing skills. Thank you so much for that. All right, the last question is for our youth. I have another example. While finishing up his homework, James overhears the nightly news. James's mother in the living room watching the most recent update on the killing of another Black person due to racial hate. James hears his mother crying as she watches television. How would you respond if you were in that situation?
I would feel hurt because it's becoming too common that Black people are getting killed. It's like day in and day on that Black people are getting killed. I feel like sometimes it's not always our fault, but sometimes it is our fault because we talk. We talk too much sometimes. And when we talk too much, it leads to us getting stereotyped like, oh, they're evil because they're black skin and they look suspicious. So, because sometimes that, like, when cops ride by our car, they'll be like, oh, I think we should pull them over because, like, the color of their skin. So I think that we need to stop the stereotyping. So that's why.
Thank you for your answer.
I would feel pretty upset because I know that for a while I really just stopped watching the news because every time I see something, it's just something about somebody else dying. So I would really feel upset, but I would kind of like talk to my mom, but I would really accept the fact that it's not okay. Usually when you come to somebody and you see that they're upset, you tell them, oh, it's okay, but it's not okay. So I'm not going to act like it's okay. So I will kind of, just be in touch with, I have my mom be in touch with her emotions because I just feel like you said, it's getting too common. It's just like another news story of a shooting happening. So I would kind of just, it's a lot that I could say on that, but just like people, like how they said before, acknowledge that that's an okay emotion. It's okay to be angry, and that's going to happen, but it's not okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your response. Panelists, anything you would like to add to that? As far as offering a response to someone that may be hurting as a result of something else that they have witnessed and seen.
I really loved her response because it was like, it's okay to be angry. And we got to start telling kids, like Dr. Cammack said earlier, like, it's okay to be angry. We can embrace those feelings. Tell people it's okay, and that's our experience. But what do we do with that now? How do we resist, right? How do we stand up for what we deserve or demand what we need? So I think first starting with accepting that it's not okay, accepting your feelings, understanding how it's impacting you, and knowing that something can be changed. And the change can come from you.
I'll just add, I think a part of the response is also important to remind people to take care of themselves, right? In this, when we're talking about these topics, it's very emotional. You can get really upset. You can get frustrated. And I think we need to be intentional about, what is my self-care plan, right? How am I resting from all of this, right? Maybe if, this is something I'm continuously hearing on the news, how much news am I consuming? Do I need to turn it off? How much am I scrolling on my phone? How much am I seeing these images and these different ideas so much that they're, negatively impacting my mood? And now what do I shift about it? What do I pour into in a bigger way, right? So that we can kind of offset it's not okay, but the things that sometimes just feel inevitable to happen.
One last quick little thing, and we should never put the onus on the kid, right? So this is a guided book to help them, but the onus isn't for them to fix the problem either, right? So it's for everyone. So we are encouraging everyone, the community, to take part in their healing too. So again, that's why we're encouraging parents, family, friends, teachers, educators, everyone to get involved because it's going to need a whole village.
And we talk about it, too, as collective. So, there are prompts in there where it asks them, ask someone you care about their experiences or ask them what you would do to engage dialogue with other adults or trusted people in their lives. But I think to this point of, we recognize in the book that this is not something we're putting on individuals, even Black parents, right, or Black counselors, right? So we recognize this is a systemic level issue that needs to change. So we recognize that as authors, and we're saying that, hey, we still have to get our young people equipped and prepared for the reality. So just because we recognize there needs to be systemic change doesn't mean that we are just, going unprepared. So we want to make sure that our young people are equipped, aware, and that there's a village around them that are also equipped and aware, that feel competent to help them manage this, even in their own experiences. I think the thing I know is noted and thought about in that case example was the mother crying. And so I think a lot of times young people are worried about caring for their parents in the midst of them sometimes even being in pain. And so just recognizing the dynamic and complexity of that, and the importance of, I think, again, this collective healing, collective support, and collective action against these systems. Yeah.
Well, listen, this has been amazing. And for you watching online, if you haven't guessed, we actually have a live audience in the building. So I'm going to invite our live audience to just put their hands together and give our entire panel A round of applause. This has been an amazing discussion. So we're almost done, and so I am going to encourage you, online viewers, if you would, go ahead, put your questions in the chat. If I can't answer them, I've got 5 beautiful, brilliant Black women, now sisters, that I can forward those questions to and also recommend their amazing work to help guide you as you move through understanding this topic better. But since we have a live audience, we're going to now ask if you have any questions that you would go to the mic. There are microphones available on the left and right aisle, I believe, and the center, so that we can take some of those questions while we have the experts in the house. Remember, I said the doc is in, or in this case, the docs are in, all right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Go right ahead.
Good evening.
Please give us your name if you
Good
don't
evening.
mind.
My name is Brenda Moore. I am a nurse, and I am working with a mental health clinician. And so we talk about providing information to our clients about how our bodies also, make the difference for our mental wellness. And you ladies and doctors, thank you very much, made some reference to that. One of the students made an important comment about feeling invisible. I don't know that it was articulated that way, but it was articulated to me in the frame of work of I feel like I didn't belong. So I wanted to ask if you would address the difference, which you have done somewhat already, the difference between what we feel, how we react, and how we respond, and then talking to us about how that changes what is happening in our body physically and organically, if you would.
Yeah, so I'll start. So when we think about our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, different feelings evoke we feel it in different places in our bodies, right? So oftentimes if we're feeling anxious, we might feel those butterflies in our stomach, or our heart start beating faster. If we feel angry, our fists might clench up, we might start sweating. And everybody's a little bit different also in terms of how their body responds in different situations. And so it's important to be able to know what those signs are for you when your body is giving you those early signs of feeling angry, of feeling distressed, of feeling anxious, so that you can, think about what you're going to do when those feelings come up. And that leads to the behavior piece, right? And so our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all so closely interconnected. If we can change our thoughts or how we're thinking about a situation, that also then can impact how we feel. So if, there's a situation that can be potentially very stressful, I can look at that situation and go, get really mad. Oh my gosh, I want to punch them in the face. I can't believe they said that, which is going to probably raise my blood pressure and, get me a little riled up. Or I can say, you know what? I was really upset by that comment, and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z so that I don't go and, fuss at them or curse them out or punch them in the face, right? So we can kind of really be more cognizant and thoughtful of what we're thinking about. So thinking about our thoughts can really help in certain situations so that we can be calmer and not react and really be proactive in how we decide to respond to those different situations.
And we have some great activities in the book around challenging your thoughts that are really adolescent friendly, like the playlist, the best friend advice, so many different activities.
And speaking to the piece around being invisible, so that may be another example of okay, how does that look in different situations? And if you're coming up with a game plan, part of it might be, who are the people that's my community in this space? So who are my friends at school, on a team, at church, wherever, so that you have those reminders around, I'm not by myself. Even when it feels like I've experienced this, here are the people that support me. Here are the people I can talk to about that. Here are the people that feel like home, or I can be myself. And then that shifts how you feel. I think a lot of times, and I know for us, part of why it was resist racism and we want people to leave feeling empowered is because when you have these experiences, it does make you feel alienated. It does make you angry. It can become consuming, especially for kids. It's it's already hard being a teenager. Now I got to deal with you treating me this way because I'm black. And it becomes heavy, and it can be, you can get overwhelmed with that. But if you're able to see the full spectrum of who you are, if you understand your cultural strengths, if you understand like all of who, what you've come from, what that means for you, why people might be threatened by your presence, you can take that and say, oh, okay, I'm a little different, and it helps you connect to your identity in a different way. We're not just the struggle. We are not just the struggle. We are so much more than that. And so those thoughts are important because we have to connect to that to say, I am more than this moment.
All right, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you all so much. This has been so impactful. I think all of you are phenomenal. And my question is really just very general. I'm just curious to know, did you all know each other prior to writing the book? How did the book, what is the origin story of your book?
So I had a publishing company reach out about the book, and all of us knew each other at some point. We were all connected in some way. And so I reached out to my colleague, Dr. Busby, and started talking to her about the opportunity and said, this will be great. We should write this together. And she said, I love this idea. And my life is really hectic. And she is a part of a group that these 4 ladies are a part of called Black Mental Wellness. And so she just said, if we do this collaboratively, can we do this together as a team with Black Mental Wellness? And so we all, another kind of origin story is 4 of us share the same PhD advisor. So we all went to George Washington. The 4 of us went to George Washington for our PhD and shared the same advisor. And so I think that also, it naturally kind of came together. And I believe you all had, I forgot, what was you all's connection? You and Dana?
University of Maryland. So I met Dana from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Not Baltimore School of Medicine. Yeah. She was on my postdoc. And so when starting Black Mental Wellness, it was both people that I knew shared the passion around Black mental health. So graduate school, postdoc, we brought it together. And we like working together. Like, it's a very genuine relationship. And so even as we think about the book, it was just natural as, being able to talk and think through the different sections of the book.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think one thing that I love about us all working together is that it really kind of defies some of the stereotypes around what people say it looks like to be a Black woman and connect with other Black women. I think we work really well together. I feel like our flow is really well. And I think I had so much more fun writing the book with my team versus if I had done this individually. And I think all of us are good at sharing the load and sharing the passion for the work. So it really is those moments where we're thinking through an idea and we feed off of each other, right? And so we're able to really build with each other, and it's not divisive, right? We think you can really do more together, and the collective spirit and the collective energy really allowed us to thrive.
And I think, too, the reality is, this topic is heavy. Thinking about racism, writing a book or papers or whatever it might be about racism, thinking about it all day can be really taxing. And I think all of our work has touched on it in different ways, whether clinical research, both. And so I think it's also somewhat like healing, too, to be able to work with women that I respect, admire, genuinely, I consider friends. And so I think that really helps the process of even being able to produce something that is promoting kind of healing and awareness for our community, but also in a space that feels healing and nurturing for each of us.
And we were very intentional about making it empowering, too. So making sure that they learned about their cultural history, their pride, just different ways to learn about their own cultural strength. So,
So we'll go to the center aisle, and then we'll go to the far aisle, okay?
Hi, so I've been an educator for 21 years, and I'm wondering, and I'm thinking about my students that in this area that tend to be immigrants, and I'm thinking about the uniqueness of Latino students as well as African descent that oftentimes have never experienced racism, right? They don't know as they try to formulate and connect it with the American way of living, how to identify that this is racism. So I'm wondering, what do you offer for educators to help in facilitating these conversations for students to be able to identify what they're experiencing is racial stress?
So we are developing trainings and kind of workshops for folks that want to have more of a deep dive, I think, on the book and the content. And so a question that we get a lot is this applicable to other groups? So can we take the skills that are learned in the workbook to Latino populations or Asian populations? And I think that there are some pieces, like when we think about, again, racism, systems of oppression, like those, there are some foundational things that I think cut across, but there are also unique experiences. And so we will be able to go into more of, I think, a deep dive for groups that are interested in understanding, okay, well, what things might be unique and what things might be kind of general across groups within those particular spaces. And then I also think that in terms of your question about understanding like Black immigrant experiences, I think was the other unique thing. I think that there are activities that kind of foster the ability for them to be able to explore aspects of like what Blackness means to me. Like when I understand my identity, in what ways am I understanding my Blackness and my connection to it, whether that's, again, I'm a Black immigrant, whether my parents were born here. So I think that there's opportunities for them to think about, be able to connect and explore that aspect of their identity too.
And it's so critical for schools to really take an active effort in addressing racism, really developing classrooms and schools that are culturally responsive to all the needs of their students. There are so many policies and practices in schools that are actually harmful to our students, whether it be their physical safety then becomes at risk, their emotional safety comes at risk, their ability to trust other people. And so, a lot of schools unfortunately do, a training on DEI or training on equity, right? And it's done, that's it. But our students deserve so much more. And so I do a lot of work in the schools, but I certainly advocate for, we need a lot of change in policies and systems within our schools to really create the spaces that our young students deserve.
And I guess I want to also just add that I think the beginning sections of the book really speak to how we can help those students that maybe don't automatically see things as racism because of how they identify and the experiences they had prior to coming to the U.S., but I think it gives it a wider range of the ways in which it shows up. So when you can kind of explain, this is an example of what it looked like, I think it's the beginning of a conversation starter. I think the book is a really good way to begin those conversations in your classroom, to begin those, tough discussions about the history of this country and the ways in which we've been treated across time. So I think those beginning sections really give a leadway into some of those ways to support students.
Thank you. All right, we'll take your question.
Okay, my name is Alfred, and you all pretty much covered a lot of stuff in the area that I wanted to ask questions were, because my background is I work for DC Public Schools my whole career in different programs throughout the government and Covenant House Youth and programs in our church, and it was predominantly Black teens. And so now I'm in Virginia with my grandkids. I got 6 of them, and they're in Alexander Public Schools, which is diverse. And when I'm working with the Black kids, African American kids, I can talk about Black Wall Street and what to do when the police pull you over. And so I had a birthday party that I went to with the superintendent, and I took my grandson, and one of our Caucasian sisters, she had her son, and she was like, "Oh, the school is so amazing. Isn't it wonderful?" I said, "No, it's not. I'm not having the same experience that you're having." I said, "I have 2 Black grandsons, and we're just not having the same experience that you are having." And she was just clueless to what I meant and what the experience, even though we went to the same birthday party, our kids go to the same school, they're just clueless what our Black and brown kids go through in the same school building with the same educational system.
Did you have a question along with that comment?
I was just seeing, I think they pretty much answered it. How are you all, just incorporating it actually in the school system to fit the multicultural environment so that the parents that are not African American, they can know that every time you see your kid bring home a black kid, he's not going to steal your watch, because we've had that experience where my grandkids, they play with, they visit black parents' house and kids, and their watch is missing, and they're coming to our parking lot looking for the watch, and it's in their car, because they thought my grandson stole the watch, because that's their perception. Hey, I'll let you play with them, but we got to watch our jewelry. And my grandson didn't steal the watch. They left it in the car.
Is there someone that has a response?
I would just say, I'm going to let you guys, but I would just say that sometimes we have to, that's when we have to protect our kids. We're always in protect mode, right? And so I think that's where, like, the strategies in the book that we've talked about that you guys have written, like, how did that make your grandson feel, and how did he process that later? And then when the protection part comes in, I don't let my child go to every birthday party. And I don't think it's our responsibility to, how do I want to say this? We're constantly having to educate the oppressor. It's like they already know, right? So I don't think it's my responsibility to tell them and teach them, don't look at my son like he stole something because of the way he looks. You should know that already. So, some birthday parties we just didn't go to. I don't know. That might not be the best answer.
But that's good.
Thank you for that.
You answered it.
Well, this was a birthday party at school with the superintendent in a public place with the classroom, the whole classroom.
Okay, I was thinking it was somebody's house. Thank you.
So I think the book, like the thing that keeps coming out over and over is preparing in this game plan, whether it's at a birthday party, whether it's educating other people, because sometimes they don't know what they don't know. They've been fed so many stereotypes, they don't realize they're having two different experiences, right? So no, we don't always have to educate them, but having an empathy for our kids being in these environments is important. And I think that's the power that we keep hearing in the book. There is a strategy. There is a game plan. It requires practice. It requires preparation. It requires being intentional with our children and knowing who they are and where they came from, and not just looking at it from a negative point of view, but also teaching them the empowerment point. I love that y'all use that word. The empowerment piece, the thriving piece. We are not just survivors. We are thrivers. We have thrived for years, right? And the power of telling how we've thrived and how we met these challenges and the strategies you can use to resist and to feel good about who you are is one of the most powerful pieces of the book.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. We have two more questions.
Hello, ladies. My name is Kyla. I just want to say I'm super inspired right now. I didn't think I was going to make it tonight, but God made a way. I'm a student at Johns Hopkins, currently studying counseling, school counseling. And so I had to make sure I came here. I came all the way from Baltimore. But I did want to ask, because I am a mom of a 4-year-old son, and I get nervous because he will be starting kindergarten at a school in Capitol Hill, which is predominantly white. And for me, I thought I was done with my racial healing journey, but seeing and going to that school kind of triggered me as I have a black son. So I wanted to know what advice maybe you have, or are there ways that I can use your book that, can translate to a 4-year-old, talking about race with a 4-year-old black boy?
That's a hard question. My daughter also goes to a predominantly white school in Capitol Hill. But what I will say is you start having those conversations early. And it doesn't, you want to have conversations that are age appropriate. And sometimes at that age, it's just about building that cultural pride, like having representation in the house, having books that reflect what your son looks like, so that he feels empowered, having these experiences that shows the fullness of him. And then just being able to check in with him And he's 4, but those conversations will change. And when my daughter was younger, people would be like, she doesn't understand. She didn't understand then, but when she gets in the car now, I get a rundown of the day. If there was something that made you uncomfortable today, let me know. What was it? If you cried at school, who did you go to? How did they respond? And start having those conversations. And for parents, it's really hard because you got to advocate for your babies at school while you're navigating school and whatever else you have in your life. And so I am a very vocal parent. And so I'm a part of, like, I had to sort of say to myself, if I'm making these demands of them, what am I also giving to the school to help make this change I need to see? So I had to join committees because I need to see the changes. And then when things come up, I'm also like, all right, we need to have a conversation, because even if you didn't know that this is how it might be reflected or how it affects this child differently, this is the reality of it. Now, how are we going to work together to change this or support this student? And so in my daughter's experience, it's just been like, oh, you have to invest in schools. I wasn't ready for that as a parent. I thought you'd just send your kid and you'd be like, all right, bye. You have to invest. So it's like having these continuous conversations and being active. And then if there's ever anything that makes your child uncomfortable, part of this process is you're also modeling. And so if something is making my daughter uncomfortable, okay, we can set up a meeting and have a conversation. They can explain this. And you probably can pick it up. I'm very vocal. There have been some experiences, and I've said, did you think about how that made her feel? I know we don't want to invalidate a Black student like this. So what is it? How are we going to approach this? So those are just some of my approaches. But, being active and involved and engaged, making community with the families. So part of what has been helpful for me is connecting with other families. And that's my game plan. Let me connect with other families who look like me, families who might be older, have older students, so that they can sort of serve as mentors for me when I have a bump. And making connections with teachers.
Thank you for that, especially for me. He's going through a total experience. I'm from New York City, so I'm used to seeing people that look like me from being a little kid. So I do appreciate that. It'll be a new journey for me. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Erica Turnipseed. I'm a writer and a mom. When I think about racial stress, one of the things that I'm mindful of is that so often Black and brown people are made to feel responsible for the bad behavior of other people toward us, right? And we've seen this happen repeatedly, where people who are literally no longer alive are being dragged through the mud in the media, right? And all the things that they could possibly sort of find about this person are then dragged out as the reason why they were killed. And none of that stuff was known at the time they were killed, right? So we are made to feel like we are responsible for bad behavior toward us, or that we don't have the right to make a mistake. And that's really a challenge, right? And so we're always, I think as parents, walking this fine line between trying to empower our kids and also let them know that they have a right to be themselves. And so I guess my question is, how does the book address that, or what are some tools that you use in your practice, or that you help kids to understand, or parents to help them understand that they are not responsible for other people's bad behavior, and that they are responsible for their behavior, and certainly there's a lot put on them as Black kids that they have to navigate, that their white counterparts, the margin for error are so much smaller for our Black and brown kids.
So part of the book, in the game plan section, we really go through the different types of ways it can show up. So sometimes for some of our youth, unfortunately, it's experiencing discrimination or racism within their own family, depending on what the makeup is. Sometimes it's in school. Sometimes it's in their community. Whatever the context is can really change, right? And so we really want to emphasize that it's okay to have a point of exploration around those different circumstances, and that we don't want to always just focus on the negative, but how do we just celebrate ourselves? How do we really emphasize Black pride? How do we celebrate our culture holistically, which isn't necessarily about just negating all the bad things that people think about us or educating them, right? Because that's an additional burden. We have choice in that. We decide who we want to give extra information to or extra time in order to do that. And do we have the capacity to do that? And so I think part of how we kind of lay out how you assess or develop your game plan really kind of speaks to what you're talking about there. Because I do think that a lot of times that is the onus is put on us, right? And you know, Dr. Henry said this earlier, we don't want to put that type of work on a child. We really don't want to always take it on ourselves. And we get to be intentional about where we put that energy. And sometimes if it's, I don't have the energy to educate you today, but I do have the energy to rest for me or to pour into what I need, that's going to be where the focus needs to be.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
I was next. I just didn't get up. Ladies, I appreciate everything you all said, but I just want to tell you all this. I raised 4 sons, 54, 50, 47, and 46. When they were teenagers, we were in Germany. And I set all 4 of them down, and I told them, Black boys were the worst statistics in America, and that those 4 were not going to be a part of the worst statistics. And I was a very vocal, strong Black mother that didn't take anything from anybody outside of our skin color. My sons thought I was crazy, and I didn't care, but they're still here by prayer and discipline, mostly from me.
That's her husband, if you didn't. Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, panel. First, let me say so much to these beautiful teens that are here this evening. You did a phenomenal job with the scenarios, and they were tough. They were tough scenarios. But as a colonial and a Terp and a Black woman who lives on Capitol Hill, I wanted to ask, and I apologize to all of my classmates. I didn't have an opportunity to read the book before this evening, but I will be leaving here with it. But here's my question. There's racial stress within our community. So I hear about all the great skills that you're teaching them to deal with the others. But are these transferable skills that they can use when they're dealing with their peers? I even heard the young lady actually state that some of her classmates say to her that you talk awfully proper. I know each of you colonials have heard that. Because as a colonial, I have myself. If you've been in AP classes all your life, if you have gone into those areas of study that are predominated by white males as doctors and lawyers and, as my grandmother would say, Indian chiefs. If you're in those spaces, you will hear that a lot. So I need to know that the skills in this book, are they transferable so that you not only have to deal with the other, but for those people who look just like you?
For sure. There's sections in the book that are geared towards anti-racist actions and resisting racism and how you confront peers or someone who's your peer or a friend who's using derogatory or racial slurs. So it definitely gives tools that say how to address those individuals, because we know it can come from our community, unfortunately, and it's not okay to just let it slide too. So again, like Dr. Saleem said earlier, when is it safe to, though? That's really important to make sure we focus on too.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. Thank you. This has been a fantastic panel. My name is Christy Hay. I'm a pediatrician. I have a private practice in Washington, D.C. And so I have a couple questions. One, I know the title is Healing Racial Stress Workbook for Black Teens, but do you feel that these skills are transferable down to 8, 9, 10-year-olds? Because that's where I see a big issue. Like, those kids are really cognizant, my patients, that I'm experiencing racism and they just feel bad. So your book would be perfect in terms of them trying to understand those feelings. they just feel really sad about it. I'm different, and it stops. So do you feel as if I would be able to give this book to a family of an 8, 9, 10-year-old? So my plan now is to buy a bunch of these, and I'm going to give them to my Black families. So could I do it in that 8, 9, 10-year-old space?
I think absolutely you can, and I love that. Thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for your support. And absolutely, the skills are transferable to a younger demographic. It's just important for them to have someone working through the book with them, right? And so they will need to have another trusted adult working with them. But yeah, helping them identify their feelings. What would you do in this situation? And as we've said, it's so important to start these conversations as early as possible. So we don't want to wait till somebody's a teenager and start talking about racial stress and trauma. That's too late.
It's late in my book.
Yeah, it's too late. So start having those conversations, starting them early is a wonderful idea. And using, again, the book is really meant to be a workbook, to start and prompt discussion. So they can maybe start talking about one situation in the book, and that can lead to talking about something that happened at school or what's happening in the community. Or have you noticed when we see the news, who's on the news, right? And kind of what they're saying about Black people or how certain people are, portrayed in this movie that we just watched. So starting those conversations as early as possible is critical. So absolutely.
And I think for those of you that are local, are you doing clinical practice with children? Because I would love to refer people to you.
I actually am. Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And one thing I wanted to quickly add to that too, you might want to consider suggesting to parents or pairing is depending on the developmental age, there are also like children's books, right? So one book I used to use with my patients that would come in and talk about racial stress is Mama, Did You Hear the News? Is one. And so it actually like goes through and there's different ones for, there are different ones that I've referred or used depending on the age of the child. So it walks them through like a children's book where they can talk about what's happening, or it has some language that's broken down a little bit more for the younger population. But I still think like a parent could pair maybe like one of those books, right, like with our book, and then think about how might I tweak the language? Because we're not going to talk about systemic racism with a 6-year-old, and it would be really hard for them to define and understand that concept. But we can talk about what it means to experience racism, but in a very kind of broken down, developmentally appropriate way. And I think that pairing some of the things in the book with the like maybe children's books that go through it too could be helpful.
So Dr. Saleem, I'm going to ask you to share some of those resources.
Yep, we can email.
We can add them to our website or add them to the episode before it airs on Wednesday.
Yep, we'll email those.
Absolutely. All right, so you have a question? Okay.
Well, listen, for the sake of time, as I promised, this has been a very robust conversation. We probably could go on and on and on, but we have to end. So what we encourage you to do, 1, go to healingracialstress.com, purchase your copy of the book. 2, we would like for you to not only watch this episode, but share it. All right? Make sure you share it with someone. Pass this information on. 3, you can contact pastoral counseling at alfredstreet.org if you need any additional information or would like to contact the authors so that they can come to your church, so that they can come to your place and space, and so that you can purchase bulk copies of this work, because there is work to do. Amen? And so now we have a guide along with other resources that will help assist and aid us. And if by chance you're watching this episode and you are struggling and you find yourself thinking about suicide, contemplating, or even having a plan, I want you to know that there is help for you. 988 is the national Lifeline number. It is the national resource. You do not have to walk in that space by yourself, all right? You will see in this moment a list of resources that will assist you and aid you in addition to that, and some resources for parents as you navigate various conversations. Will you join me again in thanking all of our authors again of Healing Racial Stress? This is Dr. Morgan, and we are signing off from Mental Health in the Sacred Sanctuary. Thank you for joining us, and we pray that God will be with you until we meet again.
What's up, Alpha Street family? Welcome to our online worship experience. We also want to wish you a happy Black History Month. I'm Charnel King, social media manager. Now let's get into our weekly announcements. Alpha Street, did you catch the first episode of Meet the Street? Pastor Wesley had an amazing sit down with news anchors and social media sensations Jeanette Reyes and Robert Burton on love, family, faith, and media. If you missed it, it is now streaming on our YouTube channel. We want to invite everyone to join us in person or online on Wednesday, February the 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as the Washington National Opera and Alfred Street Baptist Church's Music and Worship Arts Ministry present a concert featuring two of our young artists and instrumentalists from the Washington National Opera Orchestra. This is sure to be one of the most magical highlights of the year. On February the 29th, we're excited to be rolling out Alpha Street's Digital Discipleship on Demand presents Didn't My Lord Deliver Daniel? Faith in Black History, which will be taught by Harvard professor Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham. This will be an impactful 4-part series. Check out our website for more information. Let's stay connected. Make sure you're following along at Alpha Street BC on all social platforms. And you can find us now on TikTok. Now, here are the remaining upcoming announcements for this week.
Thanks, Charnel. Welcome to Alfred Street's online worship experience as we continue to celebrate the season of Lent and close out Black History Month. Now, here are the upcoming announcements for today and this week.
We know that these are difficult and challenging times. We invite you to stay connected by participating in our online worship services and remain faithful in your giving online via our Alfred Street website, ASBC app, and on our text messaging system.
Everyone, please be sure to scan the QR code with your phone, which will take you directly to our giving page on our website.
If you have any questions about giving, please feel free to email our finance department at finance@alfredstreet.org. If you're interested in becoming a member of the historic Alfred Street Baptist Church, please email deacons with an S at alfredstreet.org or complete the membership form on our website or on our ASBC app.
Our daily prayer call was a huge success during Seek 2024, thanks in part to all of you. As a result, we'll resume our daily prayer call starting on Monday, February 26th at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. However, we will continue to utilize the Zoom platform that we've used during Seek 2024. Please visit our website, social media platforms, and/or eBlast for additional information.
Hey, Alfred Street family and friends. Meet the Street is our brand new digital series in which our own pastor Howard John Wesley highlights and introduces us to several hidden gems at Alfred Street. Did you get an opportunity to check out our new series, which premiered on our YouTube channel last week? The amazing thing about worshiping at Alfred Street Baptist Church is that you never know who you may be sitting next to during our worship experience. As we close out Black History Month, we're excited to present a new episode of Meet the Street, premiering on Thursday, February 29th on our website. This episode will feature our special guest, Amber Thomas, Senior Vice President of Operations for the NAACP. Please don't miss this phenomenal second episode of Meet the Street. Be sure to visit our website at alfredstreet.org for more information.
We invite everyone to download your free copy of the ASBC 2024 Lenten Devotional Brochure. It's now available online via our website. Speaking of Lenten season, Holy Season commences Sunday, March 24th through Saturday, March 30th. We have a plethora of events and activities occurring throughout the week, as well as the month of March, commencing with March Gladness, which will occur every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, there will be a washing of the feet Maundy Thursday, our Kid Street Children's Easter performance, our Monday through Friday midday devotionals, as well as the ever-popular Sisters at the Cross on Good Friday. And don't forget about Palm Sunday on March 24th. We also invite everyone to join us live in person at 6 a.m. Eastern Time for our annual Easter Sunrise Worship Experience. It'll all take place in the sanctuary at Alfred Street Baptist Church, located at 301 South Alfred Street in Alexandria, Virginia, on Resurrection Sunday, March 31st. Again, that's 6 a.m. Eastern Time. Holy Week will culminate with our Easter Sunday resurrection services on March 31st, which will again be held at the Music Center at Strathmore in North Bethesda, Maryland. We encourage you to please visit our alfredstreet.org website to view the entire 2024 Holy Week schedule and list of events, as well as any additional information related to Holy Week and Easter. Alfred Street, get ready to be revived and rejuvenated. March Gladness is here for your needs every Tuesday in March at 7 p.m. Join us live and in person and/or online for a special Tuesday night word from one of our anointed and dynamic guest preachers of the gospel. Doors will open at 6:15 p.m., so check out our March Gladness lineup. On March 5th, Reverend Dr. John R. Faison, Senior Pastor of the Watson Grove Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee. March 12th, Reverend Marissa R. Farrow from the Greater Allen AME Cathedral of Queens, New York. March 19th, Reverend R. Janae Pitts Murdoch, Light of the World Christian Church located in Indianapolis, Indiana. March 26th, closing it out, an all-time ASBC favorite, Reverend Dr. John R. Adolph, Antioch Missionary Baptist Church in Beaumont, Texas. Once again, please be sure to check out our website and all our social media platforms to see the latest updates regarding Holy Week 2024 at Alfred Street Baptist Church.
What's going on, family? Once again, it's me, your favorite, and I'm back, and you know what that means. Kaya is back. The third one of the year, March 6th at the Alfred Street Baptist Church. But hold on a second. I got a guest coming in that I'm extremely excited about. The Reverend Dr. Kalita Forbes is going to be in the building as we celebrate Women's History Month. Listen, you do not want to miss March the 6th. Pre-game begins at 6:30, service begins at 7:30, and you want to be in the place. It's going to be an amazing experience. So as I always say, grab your mama, grab your grandmama, everybody, and make sure you meet me at the Alfred Street Baptist Church for Women's History Month. Kai, it's going to be amazing. I love y'all. See you next time.
Alfred Street Sports Ministry Chess Club will be starting bi-weekly on March 6th through July 30th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is an in-person experience. Register online to participate at the church in room 311-312. Email chessclub@alfredstreet.org for details.
Our Office of Christian Care and Counseling would like to share with our ASBC family and friends our February awareness tip regarding teen dating violence. Dating is an action that should include honesty and transparency. Seeking a relationship, whether it be professional, familial, or romantic, should consist of healthy boundaries and respect to be successful. Teens and young adults should be educated on healthy and unhealthy intimate partner relationships to avoid negative risks and consequences. Intimate partner violence amongst teens is common and affects millions within the U.S. Intimate partner violence can include physical violence, hurting your partner through physical force. We are all surrounded by teens who we love and care for, who we hope to see turn into adults that are secure, healthy, and responsible. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, as intimate partner violence, or IPV, experienced amongst teens is common and often viewed as normal or part of their relationships. Please visit our website or virtual events to receive helpful links and more info on teen dating violence. For additional assistance, please email pastoralcounseling@alfredstreet.org. Pastor Wesley's Pick of the Month book for February is Righteous Discontent, The Women's Movement in the Black Baptist Church, 1880 to 1920, by author Dr. Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham. Focusing on the National Baptist Convention, the largest religious movement among Black Americans, Higginbotham shows us how women were largely responsible for making the church a force for self-help in the Black community. In her account, we see how the efforts of women enabled the church to build schools, provide food and clothing to the poor, and offer a host of social welfare services. As we observe the challenges of Black women to patriarchal theology, visit your favorite retailer to purchase this book. Our Alfred Street Girl Scout troops will sell cookies before and after our 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. worship services outside of the church portico. Proceeds will help support activities and experiences that build girls of courage, confidence, and character in grades K through 12. Email girlscouts@alfredstreet.org for details.
Hey everybody, I'm Minister Otis Bird Jr., and it's my honor to serve as the assistant to the pastor for online ministry and engagement here at the Alfred Street Baptist Church. And guess what? I have some exciting news to share with you. I'm glad you asked. It's our new live pre-worship broadcast, The Prelude. I got you. Every Sunday morning, we will go live reporting from inside the walls of ASBC to inform you of what's going on in these Alfred streets, to intentionally engage with our faithful online viewers, and just to have some fun together before worship service begins. It will begin airing on Sunday, February 4th. Online viewers, get ready to interact with us live in the chat. Get ready to share with us your name, your city, and any other comments you'd like to share with us. We are excited about this endeavor, and we hope to see you there.
Alfred Street's Missions and Outreach Department is seeking licensed barbers to volunteer monthly at one of our local homeless shelters. The time of your commitment would be from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. for a minimum of one Saturday per month. All barbers must be licensed with their own tools. If interested, please contact missions@alfredstreet.org for details.
Are you looking for an incredible opportunity to share your musical talents? If so, look no further. Alfred Street Sanctified Symphony Orchestra is thrilled to announce that they are recruiting talented musicians like you to join their harmonious family. They're calling for all musicians to join them every Friday evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Send an email to sanctifiedsymphony@alfredstreet.org if interested. They can't wait to welcome you into the Alfred Street Baptist Church Sanctified Symphony Orchestra.
Hey Alfred Street, Versus is back in stock. Our Versus team has been working around the clock to create another batch of our popular Versus Bible-based trivia card game, and they're now available for purchase. That's right, purchase your set of Versus cards today before we sell out again. Visit our website or ASBC app and be the first to get your hands on Versus, a Bible-based trivia game by Alfred Street Baptist Church.
Alfred Street's Office of Christian Care and Counseling, in conjunction with the Health and Well-Being Recovery Ministry, present a bi-weekly peer support session virtually via Zoom. That's every first and third Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Visit our website for the Zoom link information. The Recovery Ministry peer support sessions will provide a safe and confidential environment to confront addictions, compulsive behaviors, and issues that interfere with a renewed relationship with God. Email recovery@alfredstreet.org for details. Calling all parents and guardians of children, youth, and teens. Alfred Street's Children and Youth Ministries are back. We're currently accepting registrations for Kid Street, Crossover, and Higher Ground. Visit our website to register your child or youth today. Alfred Street invites everyone to join the Joyce K. Peterson Handbell Ringers. They are thrilled to announce that their ensemble recruitment is now open. If you have a passion for music and a heart for worship, we invite you to be a part of this harmonious journey. If you can read music and are eager to contribute your talents to a musical ministry that touches souls, this is your moment to shine. For more info and to express your interest, please email handbell@alfredstreet.org.
Our Faith Savage Gun Tutorial Ministry has a new home online. Communicate, learn, and stay informed all in one place. Visit our new webpage and check us out today at alfredstreet.org. Email tutorial@alfredstreet.org for details.
Our ASBC Village Study Guide is now available on the website to download. Be sure to check out a copy if you want to go deeper with Pastor Wesley's sermon prepared for you by the Villages of Alfred Street team. The guide is available online at alfredstreet.org. Hey Alfred Street family and friends, are you visiting us for the very first time? Or perhaps you're new to Alfred Street and you want to stay connected to us or receive the latest Alfred Street updates via text. If so, all visitors. Text the word visitors with an S to our new direct text number, 571-977-4525. That's 571-977-4525.
Also, we invite you to tune in to our Faith Forward weekly radio broadcast featuring Pastor Howard John Wesley every Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Magic 102.3 FM and 92.7 FM for a powerful sermon that will move you forward in your faith.
For more information on these and all the exciting events taking place here at Alfred Street, please